Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Houston Sports Talk back into the video day, and today I'm going to be doing my Houston Texans win-loss predictions after the Houston Texans 2024 schedule was dropped about a week ago. I've been busy doing some other content. Rockets offseason, NBA offseason, even NBA playoffs and Astros baseball are going on. So I've talked a little bit about the Texans in the last couple weeks, even though talking about all that other stuff. But this is some Texans stuff I definitely wanted to get into, but finally have now found the time to talk about this Houston Texans schedule and my win and loss predictions for this Houston Texans team. Want to remind everybody to let me know your predictions in the comment section before I make mine. So yeah, let's get into it. It's going to be a hard schedule. If you look at last year, this was a great Texans team. This was a Texans team that went 10-7, but to be honest, had an easy schedule. This is a very, very hard schedule. This is a harder schedule than the Texans faced last year, but at the same time, this isn't just a harder schedule. This is a harder team. The Houston Texans have improved. They have improved things, adding in Stephon Diggs, Danielle Hunter, Joe Mixon, other pieces to the puzzle to help this Texans team be better. So this is not a team that has stayed the same and are getting a harder schedule. Because if that was the case, I don't see the Texans making the playoffs. I don't see the Texans making the playoffs. I think they'd be in the wild card case with their team last year with this schedule, but with their team that they've, with the pieces they've added in this year, to this year's team, I think they're just going to thrive, in my opinion. But so yeah, let's get into my predictions. All right. Very easy schedule to start off, and I'm actually going to give the Texans a week one loss. The Texans struggled against Indianapolis last year, had a really tough time in week two dealing with them defensively, and we're better in week 18 defensively against Indianapolis, but that was against Gardner Minshew. If Anthony Richardson's good to go, which it's been reported he should be ready to go week one, then I think this is a tough matchup, especially at the road. And I see the Texans after this having a huge stretch of games where it's going to be an easy point for the Texans. So I'm going to give the Texans a week one loss because I don't see the Texans sweeping the Colts either. Later down the road, you'll see that NRG game against the Colts, which hint that if I don't have the Texans getting swept by the Colts or sweeping them, that means the Texans are going to probably win that matchup in my predictions. So then the Texans make their home opener the week after that against the Chicago Bears, Sunday Night Football. First slated primetime game since 2022. We had that Colts game week 18, but that was a flex change. This is the first slated primetime game for the Houston Texans since 2022 against the Philadelphia Eagles, Thursday Night Football. And that was crazy because that was like the same time as the Astros-Phillies World Series. The Astros and Phillies and the Eagles and the Texans played each other in one night. But what's even crazier is that the Houston Texans at one point this season have 3 straight primetime games. So all the eyes will be on the Texans for a point of 3 weeks. So, but this is the first primetime game for the Texans. I'm going to go with the Texans getting their first win at home. I think it's going to be a tough matchup defensively with that wide receiver core, and it will be definitely a challenge for our corners. But I think definitely going up against a rookie quarterback, and rookie quarterback's first stage on the prime time, it could be trouble for this defense. But I don't see the Texans losing this game, and I have them going to 1-1. Then I have the Houston Texans getting a win against the Minnesota Vikings. No matter who's playing quarterback for them, I think this is another tough matchup. This is another tough matchup that very well could be a close game. Another NFC North team. But I see the Texans winning this one, no matter who's playing quarterback. But I think this is another back-to-back games here where you're facing defensively very good wide receivers in Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. And then, back at home, 2-1 in my predictions. You got another wide receiver tough challenge. You're going up against Gabe Davis and Christian Kirk and Brian Thomas and Evan Ingram. I know he's the tight end, but you're going up against that Jaguars offense. First matchup against the Jaguars. With the Texans being at home, last year the Texans split with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they didn't beat them at home last year. I'm going to go with the Texans beating them at home this year. So then they'd be 3-1. Then the Buffalo Bills. I don't see the Texans losing to the Bills at home. This was a road game. I would give the Texans a loss, but it's not. So I have the Texans improving to 4-1. Then the New England Patriots, that will be a fun matchup for sure. Love when the Texans get to travel to New England. One of my favorite travel spots for this team in the whole league. But even though Drake May could be at that point be playing and playing good, I don't see the Texans losing that game. So then that's that's 2 wins in a row against the AFC North. I was gonna say, or that's AFC East, the Bills and the Patriots. But I was going to say that's 2 wins in a row against 2 different divisions because I was thinking about the Vikings and the Bears, but the Jaguars are in between. But that's a 5-game winning streak in my predictions, and then the Texans would be at 5-1 going into a road matchup against the Green Bay Packers. I think this is a tough matchup, but I'm going to go with the Houston Texans beating the Green Bay Packers and improving to 6-1. So then you're 6-1 at home. Like I said, I don't see the Houston Texans getting swept by the Colts, so I'm going with the Texans beating the Colts and improving to 7-1. But here's where I have the losses coming in. I hate for the Texans to lose in prime time, but I feel like these are tough matchups. New York on the road, it's a tough defense. Texans struggled against them last year, and now they have a better offense with Aaron Rodgers and improved additions. I see this being a closer game than it was last year, but a loss for the Texans to go to 7-2. Then the Detroit Lions. I know this is a home game, but at the same time, I see the Texans dropping this one. So hard defensive matchup, a lot of hard defensive matchups for this. That this defense will be tested, but I feel like this is a really, really hard team to face. And I see the Texans losing, but I don't see the Houston Texans going 0-3 throughout the 3-game, the 3-game streak of primetime games. I have the Houston Texans Week 11 taking down the Dallas Cowboys on primetime, which is a Monday Night Football game, and that would take them to 8-3. I have the Houston Texans getting 2 straight division wins, Week 12 and Week 13 against the Titans and the Jaguars, which end up sweeping the Jaguars, and you improve to 10-3. But then again, I have back-to-back losses here, so this would be the second time in the season the Texans would lose back-to-back games against the Miami Dolphins at home. I feel like this is another tough defensive matchup. I feel like this is a trap game for the Texans to potentially drop one here. At the time, I would think the Texans would obviously be the better team and be the favorite at home. I have Miami beating us, and then I have the Texans losing at Arrowhead. So that's a very tough place to go and win a game. And especially after losing at home with what your mindset will be. So then 10-5, but losing in some tough teams, I think that's going to help the Texans take down a tougher team, and that's the Baltimore Ravens. I think the Chiefs and the Dolphins. I'm not going to say the Ravens are better than the Chiefs or the Dolphins. I think they're definitely better than the Dolphins. I wouldn't say the Chiefs, but I feel like mentality and toughness, they're a way tougher and harder team to beat than Kansas City and Miami are. But I'm going to go with the Texans at home. Christmas Day, the vibes are flowing. Texans getting a win against the Ravens at home on Christmas Day to improve to 11-5. Then the Tennessee Titans. I could see the Texans losing this one just because the fact is I don't see the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Tennessee Titans, or the Indianapolis Colts being close to the Texans in the division at this point. I would think by this point, Week 18, 11-5, the Texans would already have the division locked up. And especially with winning all of, my predictions, they sweep the Jaguars. They split with the Colts, but win the last matchup, so they would hold the tiebreaker. The Titans, let's be honest, they're not going to be close to a record of 11-5. They might be a better team, but they're not going to be that good. So you would think at 11-5, if the Texans are this good, the division would be locked up going into the postseason with how hard you've had to play and the tough matchups, and I think there are going to be a lot of close games. Maybe you want to rest your starters and put out the second unit for the last week of the season going into your wild card matchup. And if that happens on the road, I see the Tennessee Titans beating us if the starters are resting. But that's a who knows with that situation. If the Texans starters are playing, Texans will win in Tennessee. But I think that could be a situation where the Texans potentially rest their starters. Give them a week off before the postseason starts. But I think the Texans go 11-6 or 12-5. Let me know your thoughts on my predictions in the comment section, and peace out. Go Texans.